Hello interesting people, in today's video we're going to be talking about the 90,000 cameras that are quietly photographing your car every single day, as well as the police officers who got arrested for using them to stalk their ex-girlfriends, and also how people are fighting back. That's right, we're talking about the new Flock cameras that may already be in your city. And before we get into it, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps my channel and you won't miss the next story like this one. Picture this, you're driving with your wife and it's a nice day out. Then you pull into a store's parking lot in Minnesota, and suddenly 4 police cars box you in. And these are armed officers in a coordinated maneuver like something out of a movie. Well, that's exactly what happened to Joel Feeder, and when he demanded an explanation, the police officers told him something chilling, that they had been tracking him for days. And it wasn't because of anything that he did, it was because of the camera system called Flock, and a computer that got one number wrong. So here's what happened. The cop said that the plates on his car were reported stolen by the dealership in Los Angeles. One officer even pulled out his phone and showed him photos from the Flock app. And they showed him his car, his plate, and the number 3410 DTM. And that's when Feeder called his automaker and they told him that the plate that was actually reported was 3403 DTM for a completely different car. So that begs the question, how did the system mess it up? Well, on New Jersey plates, the middle number is printed smaller than the others. And somewhere along the way, the plates just got entered into the system as 34 DTM. And that means the AI wasn't recognizing the smaller middle number. So it just saw 34 DTM in big letters and numbers and started alerting the police every time he drove by. And that's interesting to think about. Just one small typo and an innocent man was surrounded by armed officers. And the icing on the cake is that the car they were looking for was actually never stolen at all. And its license plate was just misplaced during a photo shoot. And before Feeder left the scene, an officer gave him a warning that's gonna send chills down your spine. He told him to drive straight home and not to drive into any neighboring towns, because their Flock cameras would flag him too and send officers after him all over again. And in the officer's exact words, "You're lucky you were in Plymouth. If you were in Minneapolis, they definitely would have come after you with guns drawn." So what is this system and why is it suddenly everywhere? Flock Safety is a company that sells automated license plate readers, or ALPRs for short. They are small cameras mounted on poles beside roads. They don't write speeding tickets and they don't care about red lights. Many of them run on a solar panel with a cellular connection, which means they can be dropped just about anywhere. A neighborhood entrance, an intersection, or even a dirt road without digging trenches or running cables. Every time your car rolls past one, it snaps a photo. Software reads your plate and it also logs your car's make, model, color, body style, and even things like roof racks and bumper stickers. Flock calls this a vehicle fingerprint. All of it gets timestamped, GPS tagged, and uploaded to a searchable cloud within seconds. One photo of a car is not very exciting, but according to reporting by The Nation, the network now spans roughly 90,000 cameras across more than 5,000 American cities. And according to the ACLU of Massachusetts, over 7,000 agencies and organizations share access to it. Link all those cameras together and each photo becomes a breadcrumb. And with enough breadcrumbs, you've got a trail. A searchable trail of where you drive, when you drive, and by extension, how you live. By default, that data sits there for 30 days. Some agencies keep it for as little as a week, and others stretch it out to 90 days. And the part that's surprising lots of people is that in most states, police don't need a warrant to search it. No judge signs off and no notifications go out. Any credentialed officer in a participating department can just type your plate into a search box and pull up a month of your movements. The ACLU of Oregon put it bluntly, saying the data can reveal what meetings you attend, what doctors you visit, what religious services you go to, who you associate with, and even where you're sleeping at night. Flock says it tracks vehicles, not people, but your car goes where you go. And a month of driving history is basically a diary that you didn't know you were writing. And you can't even opt out. If you drive on a road with a Flock camera, you're in a database. period. Now, defenders of this system do make a fair point. These cameras have helped to recover stolen vehicles, find missing people, and turn a vague description like a gray SUV with a roof rack into a real lead. Police can also subscribe to hot lists, so when a stolen car or a plate tied to an Amber Alert passes by a camera, officers get pinged in seconds. And that speed can genuinely stop crimes in progress. But here's an uncomfortable question. What happens when the person sitting at the keyboard isn't chasing a criminal? What happens when he's chasing his ex-girlfriend? Meet Jamaris Brown, a police officer from Orange City, Florida. During the summer of 2024, according to court records obtained by the outlet 404 Media, Brown ran his ex-girlfriend's license plate through Flock at least 69 times. 69 times. He also searched her mom's license plate 24 times and her dad's at least 15 times. It got so blatant a fellow officer noticed. According to the police affidavit, Officer Shadrich King saw Brown sitting in his cruiser with a license plate image of his ex on the screen. King warned him that he needed to stop and that he could get in trouble, and Brown said that he knew and that he would stop, but he didn't stop. At one point, Brown told King that his ex claimed that she was at her mother's, but he knew for a fact that she was lying. And how did he know? He checked Flock and saw her car was somewhere else. Then, according to the affidavit, he asked King if he wanted to join him in a stakeout to find her. And it went beyond the cameras. While they were dating, Brown allegedly made her stay on FaceTime with him constantly, even at work. He tried to control how much makeup she wore, the length of her fingernails, and at one point he even slipped an Apple AirTag into her wallet. And she kept noticing him randomly showing up wherever she was. And when investigators questioned him, Brown admitted it, in his words saying, "It was dumb as hell on my end, emotions flowing, mind going." Investigators found that there was no work-related reason for any of it. He was charged with stalking and hacking-related charges. And what was his sentence? Just 1 day in prison and 5 years probation. That's right, just 1 day. Now, if it was just one bad apple, that would be one thing. But the scary part is that it's becoming a pattern. An April study by the Institute for Justice, a civil rights group, found that at least 18 police officers around the country have been caught using Flock to stalk a romantic interest in just the last few years. A separate database called the ALPR Abuse Library has documented 20 specific stalking or targeting cases. In Wisconsin, a stalking victim checked her own plates on a website called HaveIBeenFlocked.com, a site that turns public records of Flock searches into a searchable database. She discovered that a Milwaukee police officer had searched her plate more than 100 times. When the department audited him, they found he searched a second victim's plate 134 times in just 2 months. His stated reason for every single search was just one word: investigation. In Idaho, a police chief allegedly used the system to stalk his own wife, and the reason he typed in was just test. In Joplin, Missouri, a citizens group called Deflock Joplin pulled audit logs through public record requests and found that one officer had searched a single license plate 394 times in 10 months, and a second plate 147 times. Their conclusion was brutal, and they said that we see no conceivable way that the Joplin Police Department is auditing these logs, and the officer was fired soon after the group went public. And in Coffee County, Georgia, Officer Chris Razor was hit with 8 charges, including computer invasion of privacy and stalking, for allegedly using the sheriff's Flock system to follow and surveil a woman across the country. The thread connecting almost all of these cases is they weren't caught by the police departments. They were caught by the victims themselves, by journalists, or by citizens digging through public records, which means the cases that we know about are almost certainly just the tip of of the iceberg. Flock, for its part, told 404 Media that it's aware of 15 instances of abuse, and points out that it has 147,000 monthly active users. So abuse, in their words, is rare. They say that their audit logs are exactly what makes accountability possible. And to be fair, that is partially true. The logs do exist, but as one tech commentator put it, a log is a witness, not a guard. It only stops abuse if someone actually reads it, and in case after case, nobody was reading it. Meanwhile, the cameras keep spreading into places you would never expect. In Hernando, Florida, the sheriff's officers installed more than 40 flock cameras across country roads, including remote corridors near the Richmond Wildlife Management Area. And that's miles of pine flatwoods. No streetlights, no neighbors, just hunters, anglers, and campers driving into the woods, and a camera on a pole logging every single one of them. According to the Hernando Sun, no publicly available source documents of any specific crime trend at those wilderness crossroads that justified the placement. And the county commissioner put it plainly, saying, in most cases, most likely these people haven't committed any crimes. It gets weirder. In Roanoke, Virginia, a woman named Kat Vaughn came home from a quick trip to the park and found a surveillance pole freshly installed in a strip of land in front of her yard. She didn't receive any letters, no emails, no warnings. When a police officer came out to investigate, he didn't even know what it was. They had to get a ladder to look at it close, and it turned out to be a flock raven, which is an audio detection unit. The city had approved 75 of them, but according to local reporting by WSLS, Vaughn's spot wasn't on the approved list, and the officer said that they weren't supposed to be installed until later that year. The police department's full explanation to journalists? They said, we are working on this. So how are people responding to this? Well, some of them are fighting back, and it's not always politely. In Auburn, California, someone ripped 3 flock cameras off their poles one early Sunday morning in April and dumped 2 of them into a canal. They were recovered, completely destroyed, according to ABC 10. The third one, belonging to the Placer County Sheriffs, is still missing. And the irony is, the cameras filmed at least one of the suspects on the way down. In Arlington County, Virginia, 2 flock cameras were spray painted, rendering them useless. And then there's Jeffrey Solvern, a 41-year-old U.S. Air Force engineer and mechanic from Virginia. He's facing 13 counts of destruction of property, plus 6 counts of petite larceny and possession of burglary tools, accused of sawing down over a dozen flock cameras. And here's where it gets interesting. When Solvern launched a GoFundMe for his legal defense, he asked for $8,000. And since my last check for recording this video, he's raised over $40,000 from more than 1,000 donors across the country. On the page, he put it simply that, my name is Jeff and I appreciate my privacy. Whatever you think about sawing down these cameras, 1,000 strangers opening up their wallets to you tells you something about how people feel. So where does it go from here? Well, a few states are actually doing something about it. Washington State passed a law called SB 6002, which mandates the deletion of plate data after 21 days, bans cameras near places of worship and healthcare facilities, requires 2-year audit trails, and makes improperly obtained data inadmissible in court. It even adds civil and criminal penalties for unauthorized access. A court ruling in Washington also found that flock cameras qualify as public records, and rather than face broad disclosure requests, some cities simply shut their cameras off, but most states have nothing remotely like that. So there it is. The system isn't good or evil, it's just a tool. It's found stolen cars, missing kids, let a police officer search his ex-girlfriend's plate 69 times, flagged an innocent journalist's car as theft, and quietly photographed every hunter driving in and out of the Florida woods. The cameras don't know the difference between a detective and a stalker. The network's already built and it's already running. The only question left is whether or not the rules catch up to your 30-day driving diary before it becomes a permanent one. Alright, that's gonna be it for this video. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment on what you thought was most interesting. And also make sure to check out this interesting video. Until next time, I'm Tenetri and bye for now.